Happy New Year. Happy 2025. This is the first Ask Energy question and answer of the new year. Okay, Morgan asks actually a question that I get almost every day. I'm not even kidding. How many times a day should I eat? It's a great question. And unfortunately, there is not an easy answer to that. And in fact, I will probably not give you an exact answer because it is so individual based on the person. But let me talk through a few things. Okay, so let's back it up a little bit. So when you say eating per day or times per day that you should eat, let me just qualify that I kind of define eating as feedings, right? And because feedings can be snacks too. And I think we think about when we eat, we do meals and snacks. It doesn't matter if your mind focuses on meals and snacks or feedings like my mind focuses on. Doesn't matter for the context here, but it does matter in terms of the volume. And that sometimes matters based on how many feedings. Okay, so let me just kind of go forward with this. So normal adults, and when I say normal, I mean non-disease state adults, really no metabolic syndrome, no metabolic disorders such as diabetes. Most of healthy adults, individuals, their blood sugar ebbs and flows about every 3 to 4 hours. That means your blood sugar is going up and down about every 3 to 4 hours. Why is that important? Because when your blood sugar starts going down, that is when your body and your brain need sustenance. Of course, there are a ton of arguments here. I'm not going to even get into the whole intermittent fasting protocols. Ask me questions on that in the future. Okay, I'm happy to answer those. We are just trying to get to the question of how many times during a day should I eat? Okay, so if your blood sugar is going up and down every 3 to 4 hours, and we know when it's coming down is when we start to get a little bit hangry, a little bit cranky. That's when we should feed our body and our brain. Okay, so normally I recommend about every 3 to 4 hours is when we should be putting some type of sustenance in our body that is comprised of protein, fiber, and fat. That's really going to balance out your blood sugar, optimize blood sugar, improve your metabolic efficiency. Now, there are some howevers to that though, okay? The first one really depends on what your level of metabolic efficiency is. So if you're not familiar with metabolic efficiency, click below, click on the eNRGperformance.com link, website link. You can learn all about metabolic efficiency, pick up a copy of my new book, Metabolic Efficiency Training, learn more about it. What we want to focus on here is if you are more metabolically efficient, meaning you are optimizing your blood sugar at least 90% of the time, you don't have severe interruptions in your sleep patterns, in your rest and recovery patterns. You don't feel like you need a nap during the afternoon. You don't feel like you're addicted to sugar or caffeine. That is normal. That is being efficient in metabolic efficiency, right? That is basically you are using your fat stores as energy more times than not. If that's the case, then you should probably feed about every 3.5 to 5 hours, because the more efficient you are using your stored fat as energy, the less time you actually have to feed because you are more full throughout the day. Okay, you're balancing your blood sugar better. However, in contrast, if you're less metabolically efficient, so if you are actually relying more on your internal carbohydrate stores to fuel your energy needs, whereas you're storing more fat, you're going to burn through those stores much faster. So in that case, if you're more of a, you've probably heard this before, more of a carb burner, sugar burner kind of a thing, right? If that's who you are and you're not optimizing your blood sugar that well, then you actually might need to feed your body about every 2 to 2.5 hours throughout the day. So that there's not an easy answer of how many times should you feed throughout the day, because it really does depend on your level of metabolic efficiency. Less metabolically efficient means that you rely more on your internal stores of carbohydrate for energy, which means you need to feed more often because you're using more carbohydrates as energy. Therefore, you need to eat those more often. More metabolic efficiency means that you are preserving those carbohydrate stores and you're using more of your fat stores as energy, and that can extend your energy curve essentially. So that's where you should probably be eating about every 3.5 to 5 hours. So you can do the math from there, right? Since I gave you those hours, the next step is, well, how many hours a day are you waking? Right? So how many hours do you spend awake? How many hours do you spend sleeping? So basically you just need to do a little bit of math. The first part is, Are you metabolically inefficient or are you metabolically efficient? So again, metabolically inefficient, probably be eating around every 2.5 hours. Metabolically efficient, eating around every 3.5 to 5 hours. Now, once you have that set based on who you are and kind of what your status is, then you answer the question, how many hours a day am I awake? I'm awake for 16 hours. I'm awake for 12 hours. I'm awake for 10 hours. Who knows, right? Once you have your set amount of hours that you're awake, simply divide it by that 2.5 hours if you're metabolically inefficient, or 3.5 to 5 hours if you are metabolically efficient. And then you come up with the times or the frequency times of how many times a day you actually need to eat food. So hopefully that kind of unraveled that a little bit, Morgan. Hopefully that answered your question. And thank you again for submitting it. Happy New Year.